Addressing the nation on 12th May 2020, Prime Minister Narendra Modi gave a call for Atmanirbhar Bharat or self-reliant India. More recently, on 15 July 2020, Union Minister for Commerce and Industry Piyush Goyal tweeted that June 2020 witnessed a monthly goods trade surplus for the first time in 18 years. The tweet further emphasizes that there is a rapid turnaround of exports and that this is a realization of the Prime Minister's vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat. The tweet compared the goods trade data of June 2020 with that of June 2019 to conclude that June 2020 has a goods trade surplus of $0.8 billion, while in June 2019 there was a goods trade deficit of $15.3 billion. We fact checked these claims in this video. The tweet has a link to a press release issued by the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. According to information in this press release, the trade balance of goods for June 2020 is a surplus of $0.79 billion, whereas in June 2019 there was a deficit of $15.28 billion. The huge deficit in June 2019 is due to the greater volume of imports, which was much higher than the exports. The total value of imports of goods in June 2019 was $40.29 billion, while goods worth $25.01 billion were exported. While the trade balance shows a surplus in June 2020, the overall volume of trade is less than in June 2019. The value of imports is nearly half that of June 2019, with only $21.11 billion, and the value of exports is also less than that of last year with only $21.91 billion. This clearly indicates that the surplus achieved in June 2020 is because of the huge fall in the value of imports rather than any increase in exports. This contraction of trade is also reflected in quarterly figures. For April-June 2020, the total value of imports of goods amounted to $60.44 billion, which is less than half of the imports in April-June 2019, which was $127.04 billion. The value of Indian exports was no better in terms of volume, with exports worth $51.32 billion during April-June 2020 compared to $81.08 billion in 2019-20. While the data for the specific month of June 2020 is in contrast to the general trade of deficit and balance of trade for goods, it is more a reflection of trade being impacted by COVID-19 rather than any material improvement in exports and reduced dependence on imports. Going back to the press release, it provides further details about the goods being traded and the volume of import and export. According to these estimates, the import value of most of the top 10 high-value imports fell by at least 50% in June 2020 compared to that of June 2019, with the value of imports of few of these commodities falling by at least 70%. Petroleum products form a major portion of India's imports. This fell from around $11 billion in June 2019 to $4.9 billion in June 2020, which is a reduction of around 55% from the same month last year. With no significant increase in the domestic production of petroleum, the fall in imports can be attributed to the fall in consumption due to the lockdown over the past 4 months. Electronic goods also witnessed a fall in imports compared to last year, though the extent of reduction is comparably lower than other commodities. This fall in imports could reflect a decrease in the activity or demand of the industry dependent on these components and the lack of interest in citizens to buy those goods during these uncertain times. The fall in business activity is also reflected in other top import categories which, in most cases, are raw material for various industries. The reduction in commercial and industrial activity can also be ascertained from the fall of exports of finished products like jewelry and textiles. While it is true that June 2020 reported a surplus in trade of goods, this cannot be attributed to the vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat, as data indicates that the slowdown of the economy and industrial activity due to the COVID-19 induced lockdown is the major factor in the fall of imports rather than India substituting these commodities domestically. Atmanirbhar Bharat is a long-term vision to provide impetus to domestic production of goods that are currently imported to effectively reduce the reliance on imports. So, Piyush Goyal's tweet is misleading as it does not present the complete picture.
When you come across a piece of news that seems too ridiculous to be true, don't leave things to doubt. Run searches on Google and Yandex and weigh out the true and false of the situation for yourself by looking at the facts. But first of all, before you hit that forward button, pause.